In this lesson, we're going to review loops in Java. Specifically, we'll look at three different types of loops: the while loop, the do-while loop, and the for loop. Go ahead and get the project loops loaded up into your Eclipse IDE if you'd like to work along with me. And once again, we'll see there are four classes in this project: a runner class, which has race ID and name; default constructor, no explicit constructor; mutators and accessors for race ID and name; perform sport returns a running; and a toString which tells us the name, the race ID, and that they're running. Swimmer also has race ID and name and includes an explicit constructor to set the race ID and name. We have the mutators and accessors to get and set race ID and name. Performing the sport will return swimming, and the toString, which returns the get name, get race ID, and perform sport. Our utilities once again contains just the one method for null safe equality check and takes in the two objects and compares them for equality using the ternary operator. So our loops class is going to give us the ability to run multiple operations when we want to give the user the opportunity to do things over and over again, or if we need to iterate something, we're going to use loops. So here we'll have a race runner or a race swimmer object that the user can create a new object, and then we'll just basically print that out every time they do that. So we'll take a look at our first loop type, which is the while loop. Again, we say this with while. Wrap the while loop body in the curly braces, and we need some conditional check to make sure that this thing executes until a stopping condition. The starting condition here will default to true, so we'll have at least one iteration on this while loop. If we had given the user some options, there is the possibility that this condition might have been false and no executions would happen. So a while loop can happen any number of times from 0 to n, depending on that condition. Here again, we'll have at least one, and as we run it, we'll probably do it a couple more times to see that in action. We'll use a switch inside of there again to have a menu choice returned from the user whether they want to create a runner, create a swimmer, or quit. And when they quit, we will set our exit condition so our run race manager is false, and we'll no longer iterate through the while loop. We'll then print out that we've completed loop 1, so we know that we're now entering into the second type of loop, which is the do-while loop. So like the while loop, there is a check condition, while run race manager, at the end of the do-while loop. The difference is we start with the keyword do, and we, no matter what, will have at least one execution of this operation. We'll note that as we've exited this first loop, run race manager is false, but even so, run race manager false will still execute at least once. The difference now is when we hit into one of the cases that the user wants to do something, we'll actually need to set run race manager to true to avoid just exiting the loop right away. So this can also run any number of times based on user input, but it runs at least once. So that's the difference between a while loop and a do-while loop. The while loop has that iteration of 0 to n, whereas the do-while loop has the iteration of 1 to n. And again, the code is exactly the same to create a runner or a swimmer or exit. And here we have the end of loop 2. And then finally, we're in loop 3, the for loop. Now, a for loop is used when we want to have a specific number of iterations no matter what. So this is going to happen when we iterate collections, or when we want to do something a certain number of times, no matter what the user tells us. So the advantage here is that we can do this a set number of times guaranteed. The disadvantage is it may ignore what the user is saying. So here we have the for loop declared right at one line where we have an integer I is equal to 0. While the I value is less than 4, run the loop, and then at the end of each loop, increment I by 1. We'll again get the menu choice, and what we'll see here is that even if the user chooses to quit, we will still have to run this 4 times. And then we'll let ourselves know that the loop has completed. Now the code to print the menu, get the runner, and get the swimmer is exactly the same as what we've seen before, but if you'd like to take a deeper look at that, it just gives you a chance to see that we're going to get user options or create a runner or swimmer based on how the user gives us some input. So let's go ahead and run this and watch our 3 different loops in action. So our first loop, again, is the while loop. Now we've set this to true, so we're executing at least once. So let's go ahead and add a runner. And here we'll add Tom, and we'll have him be 765432. Now we're not doing any checks to validate whether or not we're repeating anything, so we could keep typing the same thing if we wanted. And here we're going to create a new swimmer, Sally, and we'll have her be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we can do one more runner, Mary, and we'll have 999, 999. And let's do swimmer, Chester, 321, 321. So now we've got 2 runners, 2 swimmers, we've created them. Let's go ahead and quit. So we quit, and it says loop 1 has completed as expected. Now we're in the do-while loop. And again, the do-while loop is set up in a way that no matter what, we execute at least once, and we can execute as many times as the user wants to. So once again, let's add a new runner, and let's just repeat. Let's just do Tom again, 765432, and let's add a swimmer, do Mary again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's probably good enough. We could keep doing that if you so desire. If you want to practice it or see it in action, we'll continue to do that as long as you don't exit by saying quit. So there's quit, and now we're in loop 3, which is the for loop. And again, the for loop is set up in a way that's going to iterate 4 times no matter what I do. So if I say I want to quit, it runs again. If I say I want to quit, it runs again. I can add a new runner, and it will run just fine. And here's the other thing. Since I don't have the ability to stop the iterations from stopping at 4, even if I add a new swimmer and was expecting to go on here, it's going to exit because this is my 4th and my final iteration. So I'm going to add Mary again, and we'll see after I hit enter here that the program will complete, and we do see that. So basically we had a chance to review 3 of the most common loop types, the while loop, the do while loop, and the for loop, as we use them in Java.